It's episode 44, double four, two fours, the 44, if you will, on the Swanglin Show. Joshua P. Dunn, host with the motherfucking most, man. Today, the P is for progress, because we're talking about something that could be serious, it could not be serious at all. It depends on how you look at it. Today, I'm joined by members of the illustrious conspiracy family, the clear-cut number one contender for the Swanglin Heavyweight Championship and reigning pseudo international style European champion, like a fucking 2022 incarnated version of D'Lo Brown. Young Prof Stan Edwards Jr. RapperGeek is in the building joining us today. What's up, my dude?
What's going on? You're looking at the real deal now. What's going on?
Oh, it's the real deal. On episode 44 of the Swanglin Show, like I said, another guest in the building representing that illustrious conspiracy family via, what is that, Northeast Arkansas. Marinated Mitch Millions is in the building.
Hey, what it do?
And we can't go through the whole announcing period, the whole intro period, without acknowledging the fact that the co-host is back in the house. Kyle Newkleus, whole singer, the fickle freckle boy living in the sea, joining us today via teleprompter like old school ways. What's up, my dude?
What's up, everybody? It's really glad to be back.
Now that we got a fucking youth soccer coach phenomenon in the building. We got one of the coldest motherfuckers that the Delta has ever fucking seen, and Marinated Mitch is in the house. We got that fucking dude. Stan's got the European Championship. I mean, we got a pretty nice group in the house today, so we're gonna fucking spin it up, man. I want to talk about this subject, man, because I've been seeing it pop up everywhere lately. I've been seeing it just nonstop. Is the concept of critical race theory. You know what I'm saying? And I know you guys have probably been hearing this term or seeing people talk about it on social media and shit. Like, even in my local community, there's people who have signs up in their yards talking about stop teaching this shit and all this wild shit, right? So I wasn't aware really what critical race theory was until, I'm sure like you guys, had to pull open fucking Google and type it in and do the research and find out actually what this shit is. So I'm going to read the definition to you guys, and we're going to see how we interpret this, okay? It says that critical race theory is known as CRT. It is a cross-disciplinary intellectual and social movement of civil rights scholars and activists who seek to examine the intersection of race, society, and law in the United States and to challenge mainstream American liberal approaches to racial justice. So if you guys were following the direct definition there of CRT or critical race theory, it is saying that pretty much that the laws in America or outside of the realm of the social spectrum, that race is implicated in procedures and structures and laws in the way that America, quote unquote, serves justice and teaches the history of the United States. So, Kyle Newkleus, whole singer, the fickle freckle boy living in the motherfucking sea. Kyle, what is your opinion of critical race theory?
Yes. I think it's a fascinating take. I think it's something that needs to be delved into instead of like shunned away from, because has been racial bias in laws. We all know that. I can prove it very easily to anybody. Go look in your towns and see if they ever had a sundown law.
Yeah, we spoke about that on the previous episode. What was it, Mitch?
So
Harrison,
if your
Arkansas?
town had a
Harrison.
sundown law, then your town enacted laws that were racially biased. Your congressional districts, your federal government, everyone at one point or another enacted laws that were racially biased. There's also sentencing issues of racial bias as well within the justice system, and critical race theory talks about that.
Now,
I'm all for it. We need to talk more about that. So that's kind of what I've always been about, is let's acknowledge the past so that we don't do it again.
Now, Mitch, I see you. Your eyes lit up there for a second. What do you think of the concept of critical race theory? Because I want to say this before you respond. For the listeners of the Swanglin Show, Mitch is in the fucking Bible Belt South, so I want you to take that into account before you hear his response. He's somebody that was raised in fucking Arkansas, currently lives in Arkansas, Tennessee area, Mississippi area. So I kind of want to get your take of critical race theory.
It's really about here, like, especially like in the sentencing, like Kyle was saying, all you gotta do is just go sit in the courtroom, and you still see stuff like that go on today. Example, I use myself. I went to prison for weed, but then I got sentenced to a 3-year sentence, had to serve 6 months. The guy next to me was a white guy who was in there for raping a kid. He had the exact same sentence that I had. 3 years, served 6 months, and he was free. You know, to me, you can't compare them to. One needs to have a lesser charge, and to me, rape is way worse than getting caught with some weed, which now I own a card, and I can walk in a store and legally buy it from somebody that's white, to be truthfully honest, you know? The laws weren't made for blacks to be in higher power. They weren't made for us to elevate to equal standards as the white man. And so, like Kyle says, I believe a lot of laws need to be changed.
Oh yeah, and I think that structurally, like so critical race theory as a theory was created at Harvard by a bunch of student professor combo deal, I guess, to where they're examining the formation of the legal structure of our society and incorporation, or the way it directly relates to race, right? So I think it's a fucking good thing for those things to be under the microscope. I think it's a good thing for us to always be re-examining our history, be able to know how to teach it correctly, to, like Kyle said, to prevent those mistakes from happening again, right? But as Marinated Mitch was giving his take, we had a fucking, like, an overhand swim move in from that fucking shark down there in South Florida, the heavyweight champion of Swanglin. MrGrippz is in the building. What's up, MrGrippz?
What up, fellas?
What up?
What's popping? What's popping?
Now,
How y'all boys doing?
Oh, we're in here chopping it up today about critical race theory. So, Vice, if you're not hip, critical race theory is a theory that is examining pretty much racism involved in our law structure and court systems and education systems and things like that. So, it's episode 44.
Another example.
Go ahead, Mitch.
I'm sorry, man, to interrupt you, but I got another example also I just thought about. Like, like in the 80s and 90s when crack started hitting hard. Around here, you know what I'm saying, a bunch of blacks were getting incarcerated for crack. You know, and they're turning around giving them 7-year sentences, 10-year sentence, first-time offense. Well, then meth starts coming over here, and white people are addicted to the meth.
Yeah, and the
you know
pill
what I'm
game.
saying?
And the pill game as well.
And the pill game, pharmaceuticals, hydrocodones, you know, like, it started out as white people on those drugs. Well, whites started getting incarcerated and caught with it so much that they've lowered the sentence here for meth. Now, those people that are getting caught with meth are doing 5-6 months and they're free. And there's still people who are locked up for the crack epidemic, you know? And like that's one of the things I feel like needs to change, you know? No matter the color or the drug, it should be the exact same sentencing, you know what I'm saying, per level of the drug.
Oh, for sure,
Exactly.
dude. And anybody that, you know, I would like to believe that listeners of the Swanglin Show that know anything about, like, the fucking engineering and design of the fucking crack epidemic, I suggest that you, if you're not familiar with that, you really need to look into some things like Iron Contra, motherfucking Oliver North whole deal, and Rick Ross, the original Rick Ross whole scenario. You need to look into that whole deal, so that way you kind of know the truth about what Mitch is in reference to as far as drug sentencing is concerned. That was like a big plot to incarcerate minorities and indigenous people and shit. It was a really fucked up scheme, you know what I'm saying? So Kyle had mentioned in the intro to us before we had started recording today, because part of the reason why we're having this episode in conversation about critical race theory is because people are protesting this and kind of saying that this is something that they're against being taught in the school systems, right? And Kyle had said, you know, if your kid is being taught critical race theory, congratulations, because your kid's in fucking law school. Kyle, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not being taught at the elementary level. But what has happened now, it's being taught in graduate schools and law school. But what is happening now is there's been laws to not teach this at the grade school level that are so kind of broad in their language that you can't even really talk about slavery. You can't talk much about slavery in certain states anymore in a history class without delving into something that could get the teacher into legal trouble. At least I've seen teachers post about in those states, you know, and from personal experience. So there's been this backlash against this that has been whipped up by people who would, I guess, they're trying to get votes out for the Republican conservative sides in their states and local elections and federal elections. So they drum up this thing that this is being taught, and it's not. But what has happened is there has been parents who have came to school board meetings and made death threats and all sorts of things in regards to their worrying about their kids being taught this thing that has never been taught to their kids.
Okay, I'm getting a firm grasp of what you're saying there, so I got to parlay that. I need to know this. Stan, the clear-cut #1 contender for MrGrippz' Swanglin Heavyweight Championship. Do you look at this whole scenario that's based around the formation and implementation of this critical race theory and kind of think this is them trying to rewrite history in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's. I think that's what most people have tried to do in the first place. Nobody wants to be the bad guy, right? And it's like when you there's certain stories that you tell, you can't tell it in a way. If you tell it the way it was, you can't tell it in a way that makes you look like the good guy, right? So it's like we do it all the time, even with little things. Like when we're recalling our memories or history, right? We always tell things in a way that makes us look good. You know, we never share the details that make us look bad, or, you know. So I think it's just as I say often, you know, on any of these subjects, I think it's just human nature. Because again, nobody wants to be made out to look like the bad guy or make themselves look like or feel like the bad guy. So yeah, like I definitely think that they're trying to rewrite history, because there's a lot of, you know what I mean? Like, just thinking back on my school years, right? We learned about certain things, but they didn't teach it in a way that really showed you all of the details. You know what I mean? Just how much, and nothing really specific comes to mind, but you know, they leave out certain details or specifics of how they teach you certain things. So it's like you don't. You know, yeah, you know it happened, but if you knew this particular detail that we left out, you would know why it happened. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, I definitely think that it's an attempt to rewrite history and try to make us all feel like, you know, we're all the same. You don't need to feel victimized or anything like that, because we're all the same. Like, these laws affect us too, you know, but.
Yeah, and in a way they do. Yeah. I mean, in a way they do. It's like a fucking backhanded compliment. You know what I'm saying? That in regards to that. So it's like, clearly, anybody that's from our age group, I feel like, understands that systemic racism is real. There's no question about that it does exist. Things like critical race theory would be things that would stem from wanting to examine the concept of that, in my opinion, to where it's like, I feel like it's the people from our demographic that are the people that are like, yeah, okay, we know Christopher Columbus wasn't what the fuck he told us he was, you know what I'm saying? We know other things that we learned about in elementary school and the things that we've now seen them adapt and change in the time frame since we were in school. We know that some of the practices and some of the things you deal with in the education system are complete bullshit. we definitely know that things that you deal with in the law spectrum are complete bullshit because there's like there's judgment involved. Now, I'm pretty sure all of us have probably had dealt with police activity in our day. Marinated Mitch, I know you've been to the joint before. I know Mr. Grippz has been in some trouble. I stayed in quite a bit of trouble when I was younger as well, so I know some ins and outs of some things. And Mitch, you had broke down the difference between the sentencing between you with weed and a motherfucker that's like raping fucking kids and shit, dude. And there should be, in my opinion, a large varying fucking gap in scale as far as punishment is concerned between those two things. And with the way the things used to be, there used to be quite a larger gap. But then, you know, the mandatory minimums got adjusted on the federal level for a lot of drug cases and things like that, to where now that gap may have broadened quite a bit. So hopefully, you know, if you're listening to the Swanglin Show, you need to know that we ain't co-signing in any way, shape, or form any type of crimes against children or anything like that. Some bitch-ass shit. That's what the fuck boys do. Now, Mr. Grippz is on the motherfucking line. What's your take of critical race theory?
I mean, anything that's going to expose the truth. I'm just about the truth. I don't care what you call it, what kind of ribbon you put on it. Just teach the truth, especially in schools. Teach the actuality. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sugarcoat it. Don't make a little, you know, holiday cartoon out of it. Fucking show the real. You know what I'm saying? See what really happened with everything, and then let the cards lay where they may. I mean, I think Prof said a very powerful thing. No one wants to be the bad guy in the story, but I think another thing is no one wants to be related to the bad guys in the story either, because they're like, oh well, if people, you know, we got to defend we got to kind of like, people try to distance themselves, you know what I'm saying, especially like white people. Like, I can say that because they don't look at Jews as the same as them, but they try to distance themselves from certain things, you know what I'm saying. You see it with you know, Christians too, like in the religious aspect, you know, so they try, or in Catholicism, and like in different religions that have, you know, had spells throughout history where they conquered lands or they did certain things, you know, hundreds of years ago that were atrocities. It's like, yeah, okay, you know, we're pushing good vibes now, but how did you get here? You know, we can't just sweep that under the rug. We have to acknowledge it and accept it for what it is.
Yeah, and that just had brought back a vivid memory for me of a previous episode of the Swanglin Show titled "Don't Knock My Imperialism," where we broke down the situation with the budding war in Ukraine at the time being, and it kind of got us in leading us to this subject of like, why is it that the United States is the only thing that can progress and be powerful? Why is the imperialism only important when it's in our behalf? Because otherwise it has to be written in a way that keeps us as powerful. You know what I'm saying? So, Marinated Mitch, do you believe that critical race theory is just like another like thing that they're going to use to divide people and kind of just like create this power structure amongst people?
Yes. But then I also believe, like Vice said, there's going to be a lot of people that just don't want to talk about it. You know, people feel attacked. I feel whenever you bring up race, white people in general, and I'm half white, you know what I'm saying? I have white family, you know, that was brought up this way. But a lot of whites will feel attacked whenever you start talking about race. They don't want to talk about it, or they say that they'll just ignore it. And that's the problem of why it's still going on in everything that we do. It's because everybody's just ignoring the shit, you know? I feel like we're all grown now. We know right from wrong.
Yep.
So
not to cut you off, that's the privilege. That's the privilege part of the white privilege. They can ignore it while others can't.
Yep.
And if we could all just come together and like you said, you have to admit it, you know? You learn that at elementary school. When you're solving a problem, the first step you do is you have to admit the problem, you know? So we have to admit, yes, this was a problem. And then we as a country have to come together to come up with goals and steps that we can do to eliminate this problem, you know? And until whites come in and try to help, it's never going to change, you know? When you were talking about systematic racism, when blacks go and fill out, you know, for mortgage loans, their amount of money is always lower. When they try to sell their houses, they get appraised. It's always lower. Like this is the things that is privilege that holds blacks back, not necessarily back, but just makes it harder to gain to where whites already are. You know.
I mean, I think the issue is like, I mean, there's a lot of issues, but one of the big issues is like, it's just like feelings, right? It's a perception. Like they have, you know, and it's not just white people, right? But, you know, certain people have a perception of people of color, you know, and that perception can be denied. You know what I mean? Like you said, somebody of color, a black person could go in and try to get a mortgage or try to get a loan or something, and they constantly getting denied, right? It's easy to deny that, well, no, it's not because you're black, it's because of this and it's because of that, right? It's because, and it's like, oh, over here we see that, like, you know, like the numbers don't lie. Like we can't get a loan the same way other people can. But with them, it's like, you know, they, like I said, it's like they can deny the fact that you're black, or it's because of this and it's because of that. But really, it's like it's just a perception. You know what I mean? Like it's the way that they see black people. You know what I'm saying? And
but that also comes from how America is allowed for like broadcasting the black, you know, role model. Like the first box office movie was Birth of a Nation, you know, and in the whole movie, it's got a white man painted like he's black, and there's no really talking in the video or nothing like that, but they have signs that says he'll rape your wife, he'll burn your land, he'll steal your this and this, and they've got this guy like foaming at the mouth like an animal, and you know, and for people who grew up around nothing but whites and never been around blacks, they don't understand nothing about the culture. And so whenever they see this on TV, it all of a sudden puts something in their mind so that when blacks do come around, they subconsciously already react.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the producers
yes.
of Birth of a Nation, you're a little son of a bitch. Continue.
And then like they have the Klan who come around. They're like saving the day. You know what I'm saying? They're coming to help save the white people from this vicious animal, you know. And that's what the world has perceived for blacks. Like you don't see commercials about black lawyers and doctors. You don't hear about that. They don't really acknowledge that and show that and promote that. All you see is the gang banging, drug dealers, and it's to the point to where some whites don't even really believe.
And you know
that there are black people that are educated, you know, that are very respectful. Like there's a lot of people, and most of the times when I come in contact with whites that haven't been around them, they always tell me, "You're not like the rest of them," and they don't understand what they're saying to me, because to me it kind of hurts my feelings, you know. But in all actuality,
that's disrespectful as fuck.
Yeah, but in all actuality, what they mean is they haven't seen a black person that is educated. They haven't seen a black person that is doing what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying, and trying to be a better person and stuff like that, because they're so used to the stereotypics or the stereotype, you know, and what the media has broadcasted for a black man,
and
basically the image.
What's fucked up is like if you do try to show them that image, you know, the image of a educated black person, or like, you know, that you try to put out that marketing of educated black people or the black family, what's their response? You're trying to shove it down our throats. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to shove it down our throats. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a catch-22.
Oh, and it's been proven. You know, if it has been proven that there has been socio-structures and other things that have been implemented by very high powers to try and cripple the foundational structure of the home of people of all color. You know, they want
go and tell, bro.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is something that is the direct result of racism and classism and things like that. Kyle Newkleus Holsinger, that fucking homecoming king, man, he's about to fucking relive his moment. You know what I'm saying? He's about to have that anniversary deal where he fucking hands the thing off. He's going to look like a fucking stud. You know what I mean? But it's episode 44 of the Swanglin Show. Kyle, I need to know, do you think that the issue that lies with classism as far as like race is concerned. Do you think that this is something that our like a hurdle that will always be like the Achilles heel of the United States of America? Do you think this is something we ever fucking get away from?
But like race or class?
Well, you know that the way that class is implemented, they are in fact one and the same.
A lot of times, right? So like, well, I want to point out again that like this is a theory that like they're like it's still working. They're still examining the past. You know what I mean? It's still being developed. That it's not just examining race. Like you said, it's examining class. Here, CRT is examining class and gender and disability, as well as other like demographics and dynamics. So like we're still learning about ourselves. People don't always. The conservatives of all time want to keep the status quo, while liberals want to change things. So you have this situation where people are baiting culture wars and race wars for their own propaganda and political benefit,
and financial
because
benefit.
It brings out votes. So the conservative movement currently wants to maintain power. They've realized they need they realize about 1/5 or a quarter of their base holds racist, white supremacist tendencies. So they now have to court them if they want to compete with Democrats, because the younger generation is more liberal. As we go on, race will matter less in America, but what will end up happening is other stuff. Like it'll be, it's just like it always is. These people we're better than these people over there. So once it's not race, and it'll be something else. It'll be the South Siders versus the North Siders, or it'll be, we always got to have someone to look down on. So
It's always going to be
that's
us
always
versus them somehow.
That's the ego thing.
Now, is that just like implemented divisionism, you think, Grips?
Yeah, for sure.
Racism was implemented in America, dude. That was a thing that was intentionally implemented to make poor whites think better of themselves. The first printing presses in America were owned by the richest people to propagandize their wares and their gear, and to pass on information they thought people needed to know.
It's divide and conquer.
So racism was taught early on.
Divide and conquer. That's all it is.
Yep.
To me, that's what the politics is all about. The Democrat versus Republican. Like, it's another thing to keep us divided. Like, even with the churches, the different types of denominations and stuff like that. Like, it just splits us and makes it to where you're always going to have opposition somewhere.
Baptist versus Methodist, Shia versus Sunni.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you look at it from that standpoint, and you see, or like even from a deeper thing, it's like even sports.
Yeah, that's what
versus
I was
this,
say that.
or
you're taught that in
like,
grade school,
Yeah, on some street shit. It's the
rivalry
red versus the
schools
blue. It's
and
the
shit,
Bloods
like-
versus the Crips, or whatever. And I know, Mitch, we had talked about that previously on a previous episode. You had mentioned that as well.
Yeah. Like, you got the rivalries in school. Like, I'm from a small town. It's probably 70,000, and we got these little so-called towns, but they're really part of our community. You know what I'm saying? And the whole time growing up in grade school, we'd play these guys in sports, and we're all aggressive and ready to do whatever. If they want to fight, we can fight, whatever, because we feel like we're standing up for Jonesboro, when all actuality, we're all from the same damn community. They're not even 3 minutes this way, 4 minutes from my house, and it's just something we're always taught, and that opposition is always going to cause, the arguments, the differences, and the racial tensions, and when y'all were talking about earlier about how the country was basically built, like it's been known for the fact that the Klan or Klan affiliated politicians have ran our country, but when were they ever kicked out? And that's the thing. Like, every other organization that has came across in America that is so-called violent or whatever, they've been kicked out, they've been imprisoned, this and that. But where has the Klan been? When did our government stop them? You know,
Yeah, and I think you may have saw something that I saw on social media to prompt that as well with the current arrest and charges filing against YSL Young Thug. I saw someone said, "Where's the KKK's RICO charge?" You know
Yep.
what I'm
Oh
saying?
no, I didn't see that, but I've been saying that for years, man. Because like every time you pick a president, like no matter who you pick, the same people are still telling him what to do. You know, and it's the same people that's been running our country for years. Their families and descendants, and like where I'm from, like the judge here, his brother is the sheriff in the next county over, and he's got a brother that's the judge in the next county over from there, and like they do that on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So that they have a wider, you know what I'm saying, radius of their power and their control. Like shit, it don't matter what the law is in America. Like laws are different here in Arkansas, man. If they don't want that shit to go, it's not going. Like I don't care. I don't care who you bring in, what lawyer you bring in. Like Johnny Cochran Law Firm, none of them motherfuckers want to come down here to Arkansas, just because Arkansas don't go for that shit. These motherfuckers got old money from the '60s and the '50s and '40s, and their grandkids are trust fund babies now running it.
Yeah.
One thing nobody will ever hand over is power. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But one thing I was gonna say about division, it actually like fulfills like a couple different like psychological needs, right? Like everybody has like a need for connection. They want to feel connected to something and other people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if it's us versus them, I feel connected to us. You know what I'm saying? Like I had like me being black gives me a certain identity, or you know what I'm saying, like me being a part of, you know, this side of Jonesboro, you know what I'm saying, it gives me a sense of identity, and I feel connected to the rest of these people that represent this side of Jonesboro. You know what I'm saying? And then it also gives you a sense of significance. It's like we're better than them. You know what I'm saying? Like we're better than them, but we're gonna keep proving it and showing everybody that we're better than them. You know what I'm saying? So that's like that's why I don't think it'll ever go away, because it literally fulfills like some psychological needs that we all have.
Well, and it's crazy too because there is an underbelly of that concept as well that lies within the prison system. Because regardless of what your nationality, regardless of what your crime, regardless of your social status, regardless of whatever, they pit you to click up based on your pigment. If you're white, it don't matter if you're actually Mexican, you better go be with the white people. If you're black, you better go be with the black people. And they create this separation there as well. And Mitch, I wanted to get your take on that.
That's true as it can be, man. Like a lot of whites, they go to prison in Arkansas, you know, that Aryan Nation and Klan stuff's real around here.
Yeah, they gotta click up.
Like when I went down, there was people that I mean I was cool with, played spades, dominoes. Like we had kind of some heart to hearts because of the situation we was in. Long story short, that was the intake barracks. Once they got out of the intake, they go down the hall to the population barracks, and the blacks outnumber them, you know, and they're gang oriented, and the whites feel left out, and most of them end up joining Aryan Nation, or you know what I'm saying, the Klan, whatever their little cliques are, just simply for protection because of that, because they know they're white, you know, and they know that they can't handle themselves.
Oh yeah, and it's a big
that
thing.
actually makes a ton of sense, because it's like when you get in that situation, like you, and I'm just guessing from the outside looking in, but when you get in that situation, it's like you in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you know what I'm saying, like all you can believe is what you can see. It's like, oh, those people right there, you're like on a deeper level, I may not actually connect with those people. Like I actually don't like those people. But since I'm in survival mode, I can only believe what I can see. And I see that those people look like me. Those people are the same color as me. So I need to align with them in order to survive in here. So that makes sense.
And it's crazy because there's all these different conversations that get stemmed out of the concept of critical race theory, right? And it's being brought to light in the most part in a negative light. Like I wanted to read this off. I found this within an article that was from Brookings School that said that to kind of understand how like widespread the effort has been to ban critical race theory from the classrooms. They did an assessment and they found out about that anti-CRT legislation that 9 states, including Idaho, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Arizona, and North Dakota, have all passed legislation against critical race theory, but none of the state bills that have passed actually even mention the word critical race theory explicitly, with the exception of 2 of them, which is Idaho and North Dakota. So it's like even the places that are passing laws to sweep that theory under the rug, they're doing it in a manner that they're the same way that they've been rewriting history over and over again by just kind of sliding it and intermingling it in with other things. What do you think about that, Mr. Grippz?
I think it's never a good thing when you're legislating education, you know, when you're taking away things that can be taught. You know, I don't understand what the uproar is about it, you know. You know, I think it's something that people are getting stirred up. The politicians are using it to stir their base, and that's why they're getting the support. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about what it does as long as it's good for them. They use it, you know. That's how politics works, unfortunately. So, I just think it's a load of bullshit, you know. Fucking speak the truth. The truth is the truth. Whatever happens, happens, you know. Whatever happened, happened. But for all those states to actually go through the process of legislating against it and then not mentioning it, that just makes me question what was mentioned in the legislation that was passed. What do they legislate if they didn't even mention critical race theory? Like, crazy.
I think that they're definitely legislating what subjects about history and what would be considered social studies, I suppose, would be allowed to be deemed teachable.
Yeah, but they're not even, like Kyle said earlier, they're not even teaching critical race theory in grade level school. It's graduate level school. So it's like...
Yeah, I think the concept...
Like
right, I think where the line needs to be drawn as far as, like, American history, I feel like we know at this point that there's doctored history. Like, what is taught in a lot of the shit isn't official. We know that. There's a lot of these things have been debunked, you know what I mean? But it's like, as a society, do we fix those mistakes? Or do we just continue to compound the fucking lies and shit? Because I feel like that lacks fucking character, and it kind of just shows a big hole in the leadership of our nation, and maybe shows you know, some potential greed involved there and some lust involved by people and some other things, you know, when it comes to kind of trying to minimalize a human being's reach within the place where we live. Because we're led to believe our whole entire lives that if you work hard for it, you will achieve it. Anything that you want, if you try hard enough, you can make it happen. And then you see these things happen that it's like, okay, that's part of the fucking trap too. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that you're capsized.
It's like that part is true. If you try hard, you can make anything happen. But for some people, the starting point is not the same as others. That's, you know, people are starting behind. Some people are getting a head start, you know, like it's a lot easier to make a success out of yourself if you don't have all the odds stacked against you off rip.
Absolutely. I feel like that's a great fucking point that you added in, because now, you know, everybody is with like the instant gratification culture, the clout culture shit, to where everybody's, you know, everybody you know in today's day and age can swear to God they pulled it from nothing. They got it from out of the mud, regardless of if that's the case or not. So for you to pinpoint that, it's like a fucking ballpoint hammer. Pen, fucking strike for me, because I like the honesty that's involved in that take there from the Swanglin heavyweight champion, who comes through wearing that Miami Heat jersey. We're in the middle of the fucking Eastern Conference.
We got that first
Miami
game in
Heat.
Boston. Let's go. Game 3. Big W's.
It's going down. It's Big W's time, and I wanted to bring this up because you had the jersey on. So
that
Marinated Mitch is
Grizzlies.
rocking the Memphis jersey.
Oh yeah,
Got the
come
ball
on,
in
man.
head though, but
You already
know.
know. We Dade County. We Dade County.
We need
We still
we
in
need
this
to know
thing.
your take on this. We need to know your take on this, Mr. Grippz,
Oh,
because
what?
you are the Swanglin heavyweight champion. What I like to refer to and coin him as now is the superstar of David. You see what
The
I'm
super
saying? I know you
swangler.
guys are feeling that.
You
The
know what I'm saying?
superstar of David, the young Dan Marley. Do you think that, much like yourself, the Miami Heat will become champion? Do you think they're going to win it all?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I gotta have confidence in them. You know, we have a really deep team. Health is gonna be the thing because Jimmy Butler didn't come back in the second half. We just got Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker back. They're both banged up. Altogether we're deep. If we play well, we play like a team. We're looking good. Everyone wrote us off after we won game 1 and then we got smacked in game 2. They're like, Boston's gonna just run right through them. Okay, what happened in game 3? We came out into the garden, and we smacked them. You know what I'm saying? We showed them that we was the dogs. So it was a good W. We'll see what game 4. Boston's going to come out crazy. Game 4 is a must-win for them, so they're going to come out crazy in game 4. And then we come back to the crib and we see what's good. We could shut this thing out in 6 or 7, but I definitely see us going to the finals. I like us against any of the teams. All 4 of them are good. I don't really believe in Dallas that much, even though Luke is playing out of his mind. But Golden State's proven. They got Clay, Steph, and Draymond. They've been doing their thing for a long time. But I just think it's Miami's year. We're having a magical season.
It's that Miami vibe, dude. There's nothing quite like it. I can't wait to experience it again. I'm looking forward to some Miami Dolphins football because that's popping off. You know what I'm saying? So if we're gonna have something crazy happen, dude. If the Heat win the 2022 NBA Finals, we're gonna do that definite Vice Grip edition fucking live party, and he'll be holding up his championship belt.
We'll do a Heat edition.
Fantastic.
Maybe I'll jump on the podcast from live from the parade on Dwayne Wade Boulevard in downtown Miami.
And that would be a beautiful thing. Now, on the subject of the Miami Heat subject, on the Swanglin Show, we always point out stand-up fucking dudes and like cats that got the leadership skills and shit like that. So we got to give just like a career ovation for the fucking Pat Riley, dude. Pat fucking Riley from Miami Heat stud.
The OG. Dude. That's the Godfather.
Lifetime winner. Just the man. He was like, for some reason, the visuals of Pat Riley when I was a kid would remind me of Ric Flair, man. Pat Riley was just he was a fucking stud, So we're gonna just shout out Pat. Pat, shout out to Pat.
Oh yeah. Double OG.
We've been chopping it up about critical race theory on episode 44 of the Swanglin Show, and I wanted to have this conversation mostly with members of the squad just because race is one of those subjects that is always tiptoed around. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the squad is well reflected. You know what I mean? As far as people of all races. You know what I mean? None of us were raised to be racist, so we can kind of objectively speak about the topic of race without getting offended and actually wanting to break down what is the actual fact, what is the truth, what we can do to go forward as people to coexist better in the fucking world, to where you don't have issues like you just had out in Buffalo or whatever, where this dude's shooting all these fucking people over some race shit.
Yeah, what a little son of a bitch.
Yeah, that dude's a cupcake.
Fucking piece of shit.
Major fucking cupcake. The Fickle Freckle Boy's on the line, the fucking homecoming king. What do you know about as far as race is concerned? Is there still like a big movement outside of these crazy shit like in Buffalo? Is there still a lot of like violent hate race crimes still happening in the United States, Kyle?
Yeah, there's hate crimes. The hate crimes are rising right now. Have been over the last few years. The Southern Poverty Law Center has a really good website that talks about hate groups. They like monitor hate groups throughout the country and try to expose them. But then there's also what's the other? There's another group, the Anti-Defamation League, which is a Jewish organization that is trying to counter anti-Semitism around. But they also have very good statistics on hate crimes in the country and around the world.
That's something that the listeners of the
it's going to
Swanglin
keep
Show,
happening. It is what it is.
the listeners of the Swanglin Show need to know about the Anti-Defamation League as well, because it seems like statistically, when it comes to like violent acts around race, Jews are like number one fucking target. You know, everybody fucking. It seems like from that terrorist front, everybody fucking hates the Jews. Kyle, why is that?
For sure.
But why? Why?
The success they've had with a small group of people. I mean, there's it's partially like stereotypes passed down from generations. Jews keep to themselves. Sometimes that sows distrust within their communities. People don't like them, they keep to themselves, so they must not, think they're better than us or something. I don't know. But it's just a combination of things that leads to that. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is this fucking book that was published years ago that some say it's like talks about a plot for Jews to rule the world that's used from generation to generation to, there's always conspiracy theories. People buy into it. It just makes them an easy target sometimes.
Well, I feel like there's always these religious texts that are tied to people's nationalities, and there's always stories about pretty much every culture in some way or shape or form either being undermined by someone else or doing the undermining on their own. So it's always like this big fucking giant quest for imperialism. Right? So I want to kind of just throw my tip of advice out to the listeners of the Swanglin Show real quick. If you're worried about some power, worry about the power of your own thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Be able to control your own dedication, your own fucking honor, your own pride. You know what I'm saying? Worry about the power of that and not the power you can have over other people, because then the power stems from you and everything will just magnet back to you. Marinated Mitch, what do you think about that?
I agree. We as people, we gotta learn to be able to communicate through our differences and learn to respect others when doing it. Everybody's got their own opinion and shouldn't be, shouldn't have to worry about necessarily getting hurt or physically, harm done just because of what they think or believe. Us as a nation, we have to come together anyway. But I don't ever see it changing. I just see the top political leaders and the rest of the people that's running our countries just keep amplifying it to keep us split. I think we got to throw out our government, man, and start all over. And that's the only true way I see it ever changing. And if that don't happen,
what if we took that concept,
just don't see it, man.
What if we took that same exact concept of complete overthrow, and what if we did complete overthrow for the Swanglin Heavyweight Championship Battle Royal, Vice versus everybody? How do you guys feel about that?
That would make for a better America, man. You put.
I ain't trying to shit. Don't put that on me. I'm giving up that title.
Oh yeah,
it's hard. How do you govern 330 million and growing? So it's a difficult job. But I think it will get better. There's more people. The younger generations are not as bad as the older ones, even if they're getting influenced. I think in the next couple decades or so, we're gonna see a lot of positive change. We got to. Like, shit's getting bad. It's hot as fuck. The environment's all crazy. Like, we're in this together. We don't got nowhere else to go. So we gotta, we got to understand, and the majority can overrule the minority as much power as they have. We got power in numbers.
Absolutely. And we got to just make sure that as people, man, we stay positive. Because there is, these outweighing fucking constant drama of the world, man, and it weighs on you. And as a man, you got to fucking carry the toll of all this fucking crazy shit of the world, you know what I'm saying, while you're still trying to carve your path. So on episode 44 of the Swanglin Show, man, we want to make sure that we convey to you that critical race theory or any other fucking theory, a theory is a theory, a law is a law. Know the difference between the two and find out yourself what you think the changes that need to be made, and find out what it is you can do to help assist the changes be made. And that's what we can do together, you know what I'm saying, to create a better Swanglin environment.
Don't be a little son of a bitch.
Don't be a little son of a bitch like the producers of that fucking film Birth of a Nation, like Mitch had mentioned earlier. Don't be like these little son of a bitches out here. That's one thing that we definitely have to fucking keep in mind. You know what I'm saying? But I've been joined today by members of the illustrious conspiracy family as the champ down there in fucking the dirty South, MrGrippz. It's Stan RapperGeek Edwards Jr. We're talking about Marinated Mitch Millions. We're talking about Kyle Newkleus Holsinger, that fickle freckle boy living in the sea, the homecoming king, man. He's got a single called Italian Rugs that's coming. The Swanglin Heavyweight Champion's got a new album that's coming. We got episode after episode of Straight Swanglers coming to you at swanglin.com. And you can follow us on all platforms at The Swanglin Show. It's Joshua P. Dunn, the host with the most, but not with as much as I want. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be back next week, and we'll see what you have for me then, you little son of a bitch. It's going down. Swanglin Show, episode 44. What's happening? It's going down.